Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment month for them.
I come along, I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to hear that. I would not. We got great this year at SPD.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
It's all about the boom. I knew you were waiting. You were just
I
waiting
know.
for that. And
And
what
then
a
I gotta
great
go.
SPD, baby! What a great episode to celebrate Adam Cole, man, from start to finish. It feels like, man, they are pushing that guy to the moon, and for good reason, huh?
Man, he deserves it. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in store for us with Adam Cole, baby. I mean, he's getting his own entrance, and
Yep.
all the Young Bucks and the Elite are singing along to his songs. If you watch BTE and any of that, and if you do watch BTE, you'll notice why there's that match with the Dark Order and the Super Click Party. So I liked how they played into that storyline as well for that. But welcome everybody. It's Dynamite Download, episode 55 on a special Sunday night edition. We're switching things up a little bit, and so is AEW switching things up a little bit. Next week, there's also going to be a Dynamite on Saturday night. So back-to-back nights of wrestling on TNT for us, 2 weeks in a row, Friday, Saturday. It works better for some people on the weekends too. How do you feel about Saturday Night Dynamite?
Well, they talked about it a little bit in the commentary team about how, it takes you back to when, Saturday Night Wrestling, there's some of that. I mean, and I think those of us who are longtime fans know, like, there's something nostalgic about it. It is hard, having Friday night and Saturday night, back-to-back
Right.
nights. I love that breath that you get on Thursday between Dynamite and Rampage. I think that works great. But I mean, at this point, it feels like AEW can do no wrong. Santana said it in that Inner Circle promo, how the Miami crowd brought it like nobody's business and back-to-back nights.
Small but mighty.
Really, really a hot crowd. Again, it's weird talking to you on a Sunday, heading into the work week. Usually we have those Wednesday nights. One of the best things too, I'll say real quick before we jump into the show, is I do love Wednesday, as so did that hump day. It gets, for those of us, I know you work a non-traditional schedule. For those of us who do the Monday through Friday thing, Dynamite's during Wednesdays just feels right. It just gives you something to look forward to during the work week. So
because it's all home stretch from there, pretty much.
That's right. Yep.
And for those of you guys watching, thank you for joining us, and we'll share a little secret inside baseball with you near the end of our show, what we got in store for this week. So if you caught our interview with Brian Cage, thanks for checking out. It was an absolute blast. Man, what a great guy. We want to see so much from this man. There's so many potential matchups, and we'll talk about it later in the show. But when MJF was out, real quick, I was praying. I was like, please let Cage's music hit. Please let Cage's music hit, so MJF can just be like run away crying. But we saw Sting, and he still ran away crying with that. But the show started off with a bang. I mean, CM Punk on commentary for one, obviously, is no matter what, going to get you going. Then all of a sudden, it slows it down, gets it pitch black dark, and then you get Dante Martin versus Malachi Black. It was great that Dante was in the ring, essentially calling out the locker room and seeing him get that spotlight. And then Malachi Black quickly shutting him up with that kick a few weeks ago, or, last time we saw on Dynamite. And so them one-on-one in the ring. This match was really incredible, and I know how you felt, but I think both guys looked absolutely great. They meshed really well together. There was a lot of technical wrestling in there, and there was a lot of body parts, focusing on body parts, and both guys really selling it really well. The fans were eating it up, and I'm sure everyone at home was eating it up like we were. They were chanting, "This is awesome," and "Holy," very frequently in this match, and rightfully so. Both guys deserve that. I think Malachi Black's innovative offense is so fun to watch. And tonight we saw a totally different style from him. I think one of the better matches that you said it, probably his best match in AEW to date. I mean, his ones he's had in with the Nightmare Factory have been pretty, one-sided, and a young guy, Dante Martin, where he's trying to have to work him. He's gonna, work him down, beat him down. And he did, and ultimately prevailed. But it was a fantastic match.
Yeah, agreed. And I think Malachi himself even recognized that, giving him the subtle nod as he walked up the ramp. I think that he recognized, Dante, a young kid, really pushed him in this match. I've been slow to come around to Malachi's in-ring work, out of the Dynamite download crew here.
Right.
I've been the one that's kind of been slow. I recognize his God tier ability to just absolutely put on that mystique, that aura, that presentation, everything around Malachi's character is hitting like nobody's business. But I've seen enough of Malachi to say, all right, like I know what he's doing, but this was a match where I felt like he really got pushed. And Dante, to his credit, I love what Dante does as far as keeping the pace going. His selling was on point throughout this match, and obviously with the way that Malachi was working over Dante's knee, you wonder how that's going to impact Dante's offense throughout. And a guy like him, he's a high flyer. High flyers are going to do high flying stuff. So he did go to the well quite often doing those high flying moves, but it was always something going back to his knee. The story was really fluid throughout this one. It made a lot of sense. As Punk talked about on commentary, you got Malachi trying to ground that high flyer. I liked it. I thought that this one was a match that we needed to see. Really thought that Dante, again, every opportunity he gets is in these big settings, whether with the Kenny Omega match, and this one is another great example where this guy gets that opportunity against a big top tier talent, and in the end, I think all of us are incredibly impressed by what he brings to the table. I'm also really intrigued by what happened post match, where we talk a little bit about Lio Rush kind of
Bitcoin
forcing
Barry.
Yeah, Bitcoin Barry, as Punk pointed out. Lio Rush kind of like forcing a tag team between him and Dante was interesting. I liked the kind of the like how that one played out, and I think that Lio versus Malachi would be a lot of fun in a one-on-one matchup. So definitely interested to see.
I think that will be a really fun pairing. And it was nice that they finally brought up Darius and his injury, and they compared it to, how Dante doesn't want to have a knee injury like his brother. And so they brought him back into fold. But I think that'll be a lot of fun to see this pairing for a while. And, we'll see how long Dante can put up with Bitcoin Barry, Lio Rush's, style and his vision. And so, but my favorite segment of the night was the inner circle one right here. And it's fun as the resident inner circle mark. This was, inner circle is hot, and the crowd has been behind them for a while, ever since they turned babyface. And even when they were heel, the crowd was behind them. But I think at this point, the resurgence of the inner circle is near an all-time high. I mean, no better, partner to pair him against an American Top Team and Dan Lambert, which they're continuing to hijack their promos. The ultimate scumbag Dan Lambert and
fat face dipshit.
Yeah, that's right. And Chris Jericho just doing absolutely gold stuff, gold promo after gold promo. That pairing is incredible. And in this segment, it had me laughing, it had me cheering. I was
reminds you of those old school Stephanie McMahon promos that he would be cutting back in the day. I was ready for him to call Paige Van Zandt a trash bag hoe. It was just he was on point, absolutely hilarious as always.
He totally. I mean, this touched on social, because if you look at Paige's social, where she was doing selfies and all that stuff, and then he tied it all in. But I was just like, oh my gosh! But Santana kicking things off. I love that. I love that. Sammy was getting tons of chants, tons of love from the crowd, and I think he was kind of blown away with that as well. So. Which is really great. And the inner circle chant, that's one we haven't heard that often recently, and we're getting it. And that's just showing how over the Inner Circle is right now. And, they're 0-2 against American Top Team, but I think once they're reunited, with Santana and Ortiz, things are about to change quickly. But speaking of Ortiz, not only Santana with fire on the mic, but Ortiz is looking jacked, more jacked than ever. Just him standing there in that vest. I'm like, wait, who is that? Because not that he was never out of shape, but he was looking jacked, and I'm loving this side of Santana.
We've seen Santana transform himself over the course of this year, and it looks like Ortiz is whatever Santana was doing. Ortiz is on board with it now because both those guys look like the tip-top shape of their careers. Definitely, I noticed that too, and it honestly it seems like he better be because they're going toe-to-toe with America's Top Team. If we saw those leaks from Tony Khan's pictures of him at the Jags game with all the notes of what we were going to see at Full Gear, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to think that the Inner Circle versus America's Top Team was in the cards. Tonight we made it official. Jericho called them out, and it looks like it's going to be a 5-on-5 matchup. It'll be interesting to see who Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky bring with them. There's going to be a lot of potential big names in the MMA world to join this one. And I think the Inner Circle is going to be pushed in a very different way than what they were pushed against the Pinnacle. Pinnacle has a lot, obviously MJF is a master schemer, a master manipulator. And they were going against guys who were very much their equals. How do you scout America's Top Team? How do you scout them? How do you prepare for a match like that? Obviously, we've got to see Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky do some great things over the course of this year, but I think there's a wild card. Going to definitely be an interesting matchup, and I think it could get really physical. I think the Inner Circle welcomes that. As you as the diehard Inner Circle mark, you have to be wondering what kind of brutality and violence they're going to have to stoop to in order to beat some legitimate badasses. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that this pairing is fun. And obviously Jericho and Dan Lambert on the mic together are they're able to carry some of these segments as far as the humor, keeping the feud going. Although Dan Lambert digs at Jake Hager, I was just left like, what is he talking about?
His head's
making
so
fun
big.
of Jericho making fun of Hager because of his head size. Never thought I'd hear that one. That was an odd one, I gotta say. But I liked it. I thought it was really funny and kind of a dad sense of humor in some of them. I thought it worked well. I don't know.
For sure, and a lot of questions going into this match right here, the Lucha Brothers versus a masked tag team. Wondering, with the AAA titles on the line, under, what I heard last minute under AEW rules, because they were talking about if you don't have a mask on, you can take the mask off, you can get disqualified.
Yeah.
All the shenanigans aside, the fact that we got Lucha Brothers versus FTR in this match, aka Las Superrañas, was incredible. And in a mid of the show unadvertised match, we get two of the top teams in all of wrestling in terms of tag team
in the world. Yes.
And so it was kind of, that was my only knock of this match, other than it being amazing, is the fact that it should have been advertised. It should have been a main event, just because the caliber of teams. Like, yes, and then I was a little shocked after they won how quickly they just ended. Like, winning a title from someone,
it's a big deal.
Even if it's not an AEW title, even if it's a AAA or the New Japan Pro Wrestling title, like, it should be celebrated. It should be embraced. But it was literally seconds after they grabbed those titles, they went to a commercial or a different segment. And I was a little bummed. I'm like, that's a big deal, because winning those titles was a big deal, and defending those titles is a big deal. And I know we saw that backstage segment, so I just was hoping for a little bit more after the surprise and after the surprise winning, that they were going to do a little bit more post-show on this, and it seemed a little abrupt to me.
Well, I think that, like, the follow-up post, that follow-up segment was needed. But I agree with you. I mean, it's a big deal. the positive thing is I do have a feeling that, anytime you have MJF associated with a feud or an angle, there's going to be plenty of mic time. There's going to be plenty of gloating. And I have a feeling FTR is going to do plenty of that. The greatest tag team of all time.
GTTOAT.
That's right, baby. Get used to that acronym, my friend, because they're not going anywhere. They just continue to add accolade after accolade after accolade, championship after championship after championship to their resume. Really fantastic stuff. And it was it was nice to see them bring in some of their humor too. I mean, these guys are throwback old school wrestlers, and anybody who loves the business like this, you got to remember the heels sometimes got to have to be the butt of the joke once in a while, but
sure.
having them get the W here, pull a fast one, sneak this one out over Lucha Brothers. I hope that this only leads to more matchups between these two in the future. I've been calling it for a long time here. SPD, the tag division has taken a step back, allowing the women's division to take a little bit more of the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying FTR needs to be at the front of this revitalization, the resurgence, that renaissance that can happen with
sure.
the tag division. And it's great to see them quickly thrust into that spot now with AAA tag team titles. Now they can go toe to toe with the Lucha Brothers, taking one of their belts and saying they're the true best tag team in professional wrestling. Really good stuff, man. Really think
this match was incredible. I mean, there was anytime. I mean, it's a broken record, but anytime you have the Lucha Brothers in any match, you're getting a lot of OMG moments. You're getting like, what the heck is going on? Is this real? How are they thinking of this? How is this so fluid and so make it look so easily? And they are nonstop. It's a shame whenever you get a picture-in-picture because you want to like bring out the magnifying glass and watch so close because there's always action. There's never the slow grind. There's never that. It's just like 100 miles an hour the whole time, and it's great. And anytime you get a hot tag from Penta or from Ray Phoenix, man, the crowd's going berserk. So
I would have loved to watch this one with you in person because it's your favorite tag team going against my favorite tag team.
That's right.
My elbows would have been digging into your rib cage a few times after my boys FTR pulled out the victory and took the titles off of Lucha Bros. Great match. And again, foundation for future great matchups because such different styles in the ring. I know you love that fluid, fast-paced offense of the Lucha Brothers, but and you've been coming around to my guys.
I love FTR.
Very fluid offense and very smart offense. I like it. I think that they're going to bring out, if they allow these two to go and have a little bit more meat on the bone of this feud, I think we're going to see a little bit of the best of Penta come out of this feud because I think Ray Phoenix has obviously been a star in his own right. But Penta's style works really well off of hard hitters like Dax and Cash. And I think that he is the kind of the muscle of this group could bring it. And that like the chops and the strikes, that'll be a lot of fun to see them go toe to toe going forward. I like it.
Speaking of chops and strikes, there was a lot of strikes and a lot of domination in this match. And as quick as the bell rang is as quick as the bell rang, but bell to bell, this was quite a surprise, as you have to call it, call a spade a spade. This was a squash.
An absolute beatdown.
Mox squashed Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
Right in front of his friend, Orange Cassidy. So it was interesting to me. I was really surprised by this, honestly. Someone who Wheeler Yuta has been pushed a lot. I know he's not been racking up the wins, but he's been featured on Dynamite on and off the last 3 to 4 months, pretty regularly and, being aligned with the best friends. But for Mox just to dominate like this, it was just like, wow. He's like no nonsense, kicking the barricades open, coming in, kicking them to leave and getting out of there, kicking zero offense whatsoever.
Man, that's just, to me, I've been saying it feels like I understand Moxley is hasn't had a huge, it feels like AEW goal of late, but I'll say this. It's been really evident Mox has been on a warpath. Your dude has just been absolutely bullying people ever since that ever since that promo where he was cutting it on basically the entire locker room, trying to remind everybody that he was the one who was the flag bearer for AEW through the pandemic. I felt like Mox has had this fire in him, and tonight's match kind of reaffirmed how I felt. Moxley's kind of leaning into a character where good, no matter who he's against, SPD, fan favorite, or the nastiest heel in the business, it doesn't really matter. I think Moxley's leaning into a persona right now where he's kind of tired of being put on the back burner. This was a guy who just last year was the number one pro wrestler in all of the world based on PWI. A guy who we all know has gone through hell and back to be at the top of the mountain.
Right.
I think he's ready to start beating some respect into people, trying to remind people that he's the original paradigm shift. He's the guy who changed everything for AEW. This was an ass kicking. Let's just be real. I mean, this was an absolute pummeling. This was one of those moments where you just were like, all right, I see you, Mox. I see what you got going on. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, it was honestly very surprising. And so leading into that, I think this is going to set up when we saw later in the show, which we'll touch on real quick, is the world title eliminator tournament. Moxley is in the first round versus Dark Order's 10, and clear favorite if you're going to call it Division 1, Division 2, like the clear favorites. Well, first and foremost, before we saw the bracket released, I was predicting Hobbs or Adam Cole just for storyline picking because of, I'm thinking heels, heels going against Adam Cole Adam Page.
Adam Page, the Hangman.
So it would be a battle of the Adams, or
Yep.
it would be Powerhouse Hobbs in the finals, which would be a nice little nod to the cap of that. But you're looking at this, and the clear favorites to me, Moxley and Bryan Danielson, if they're in the finals for this at Full Gear, the match is going to be great, which they've met before. But I almost hope it's not them, but those two guys taking a loss really would be hard to me to see. They seem more of the protected men in AEW at this moment, especially Moxley, other than when he lost to Lance Archer in that, New Japan or IWGP championship match down in Texas. But that was a brutal match as well. Mm-hmm. But do you see Moxley coming out on top in this tournament, or how do you see it playing out, and who do you want deep down inside? It's playing spoiler essentially.
Yeah, man. I mean, you look at these brackets, and I think that there's a lot of like, oh, well, there's some obvious, it's obvious who's going to win and stuff like that. But the more I see this on the screen, the more I think like there are some really interesting just pairings.
Right.
I'm intrigued to see where this can go. But looking at things and just telling you how I feel, I like this side of Jon Moxley. I know that he it was a quick squash match, and so it's hard to get invested in the match itself with Yuta, but I'm really digging what Moxley's been doing lately. And it's not necessarily for the in-ring work. It's for that edge that he's presenting to his character. And I think that he's kind of got this no-nonsense vibe to him that is a nice juxtaposition against some of the antics of the elite and some of this, like the over-the-top sense of humor and joking around that goes around with the all that stuff with the Dark Order and the elite and all that. Moxley kind of just being that like renegade badass. I really dig it. And I'll be honest with you. I think that you could present Moxley against Adam Page and have Moxley be kind of the heel of that match. And I know that feels weird for a guy who's been so beloved in AEW, but I think that you could go that way. I think that Moxley kind of just being a pissed off son of a bitch coming for Hangman, and think about how hard hitting that match would be. I know SPD, you love your chops and kicks, but this one would be full of just uppercuts and forearm smashes to the face and lariats. I mean, the lariats between Moxley and Hangman would be brutal. Right. So I mean, I like that. But you can't go wrong. I mean, we all love Powerhouse Hobbs. We think that guy's got a lot to offer. This first round matchup on that left side of the tournament, when you get Moxley and 10 going head to head, and then Hobbs and OC going head to head, interesting there. A lot of power outside of the OC side. I know that Orange Crush can take a lot of people down. I want to hear your side of it. I mean, this was from a world title tournament. I'm going to go with the obvious. I think the chalk right now, Moxley versus Danielson in the finals. This is where you have Kenny in the Elite cost Danielson, have him lose that match, and then you have Kenny going toe-to-toe with Danielson down the road and allowing Moxley to be that first title contender. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the best way to protect Brian is to have some kind of shenanigans where the Elite or Kenny do interfere, so they prohibit him from facing him down the line somewhere. Like if it was in the finals and they do some shenanigans where Mox takes the victory or someone takes the victory over Brian in the finals earlier in the show, that way Kenny's laughing, ha ha ha, Brian, he'll never have his match against me with a title, and then he ends up losing the title later on. And then they can have that match again, that rematch, and then have Brian Danielson beat him ultimately one-on-one with no time limit restrictions.
I like it.
But we saw the first person that Hangman saw in the ring when his return in that Casino Battle Royal was Moxley. And they were throwing punches. And the crowd was split. I mean, the crowd was obviously over for Hangman. So it would be, a marquee match for sure. But it would be nice to see someone for if it's Hangman's first opponent, Moxley, that is incredible. That would be an incredible first title defense.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
And not many champions have faced ex-champions with their first title defense. So that would instantly establish him as a a credible, not that he needs it, the first notch on his belt.
You beat Kenny Omega for the belt, and then you beat Moxley in a title defense. There's no question that AEW is going all in with Adam Hangman Page then, right? I mean, like we know that the world title, they like to have like long title reigns. You start off your title reign with knocking those two guys off the top of the mountain. Who's going to challenge you? And I like that. And Hangman touched on it on his promo. He talked a little bit about some of the shortcomings he's had. Imagine if he gets a shot against Pac, and is a title contender. I mean, there's a lot of guys that Hangman goes against, and the AEW roster is loaded with great heels at the top of the card. So I think that the world title tournament is going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see this one play out. You and I have a conversation scheduled with one of the contenders in that tournament. Looking forward to that really soon.
We do.
Can't wait, man.
But speaking of who we've spoken to on our show is
my
two
wife
members
is
that
saying
we saw.
this.
Yes. Alex Reynolds and John Silver himself have been guests here on Dynamite Download, and some of our favorite interviews for sure. Those two guys are incredible guys, and it was absolutely great to see them back in the ring, because you can tell. I mean, that Dark Order Reunited is great stuff, man. The crowd was eating them up. I mean, John Silver chants, Johnny Hungy chants. They were just on a roll after roll after roll, and this match was one of the more exciting trios matches I've seen in weeks. They mesh so well together, and a team like the Dark Order that has such good chemistry is really tough to beat at times, but they gave a run for their money to the Super Click Party, or the Super Spray Tan Party, as I like to say, because they're full of spray tans. You can see it on their hands and their chests, and the Super Spray Tan Party versus the Dark Order. But I love the trio style offense that the Dark Order does constantly, they're like the bang, 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 bang offense between the three. And it was incredible stuff. I mean, this was such a high energy match. Johnny Hungy's kicks, and I love when he throws someone across the ring. He's not the biggest guy, but his arms are bigger than anyone's in the business, essentially. And
thick, the
and
meat
he's
man.
Like throwing him over, the meat man for sure. And then we saw quite a surprise Mr. Sacco debut here in AEW. And so what did you think of Evil Uno pulling out Mr. Sacco on them?
I'll be honest with you. Like, my first reaction to this match, you stole the words right out of my mouth, man. That trios offense that the Dark Order can, that just the bang, 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 man. It's
Yeah.
just absolutely on point. But again, getting the crowd behind them. You know, the Dark Order is not too proud for some cheap pops. Getting the crowd behind them with Mr. Sacco, that was fantastic. I loved it. A lot of fun. And it's great to see the Dark Order running as a well-oiled machine. Even though the DMD tried to throw some arrows at Anna Jay and her promo and try to tear them down, since Join Dark Order January, we've been on board. We've been saying it. These guys, when they're in the ring, they can bring it, dude. So being able to hang with the Super Click, it was a great match as far as being able to showcase their in-ring talents against some of the best in the world. That spot with the kiss with Adam Cole was just as funny. I mean, that's one of the iconic moments of that match.
Of the night.
You can just tell. Yeah, absolutely. You could tell these guys are loving life right now.
Oh, for sure.
But if you're part of this, the Super Click, if you're part of the Elite, you got to be really happy with the way things are going in AEW. These guys feel like, although you just mentioned it, Kenny might lose the belt soon. There's just they have that swagger to them right now, man. Like, and although I've been kind of predicting maybe that they were going to break up, it doesn't feel like that's going to happen anytime soon with the way these guys are just enjoying beating the piss out of people and rubbing it in their noses in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we see more. I love in that combo. And I think it was you or Bonds or someone said it, one of you two, how eventually if you do see the Elite break up, this trio, this super spray tan click party versus a Kenny trio, I think that'll be some compelling stuff too. Really great talent in the ring for that. But I'm hoping for more and more Dark Order. We're going to see some on Dark and Elevation. And then obviously we're seeing 10 in the tournament. So they deserve it. Now that they're reunited, they're stronger than ever, and they got the chemistry and they got it. But we're going to shift into one of our biggest fans that we have out there, Maxwell Jacob Friedman himself. He's a big Dynamite Download fan. I think he ordered a couple mugs and shirts from us. So
God, yeah.
Probably sipping his margarita.
We did have a couple orders for Long Island, so
we
maybe.
did. So I think he's sipping his margarita out of that Dynamite Download mug right now. Extra salt on there, so he wanted to see our face every time he's drinking that margarita. But MJF, which we saw earlier in the show, take that cash bribe from Andrade El Idolo, and his Spanish was right on point as always.
Fantastic.
And the MJF promo came out for his Darby match, and he was trying to get that 10 count, calling Darby the number 2 guy, typical heel stuff with, just crapping on the crowd and all that. But that's what I was saying earlier. I'm like, when we talked to Brian Cage, just the idea of him coming to Darby's aid, which still could happen.
It sure looked like it could.
I was hoping for that music to hit, but when Sting music's hit, this is how many lashes or low blows do you think Wardlow can take until he's had enough? He was thrown to the wolves.
Even being brought, even coming out to the ring, right? Like MJF's little pot shot about how good to see you make yourself useful for once, big guy. It's just like MJF is such a detestable, just a piece of garbage, man.
Yes.
And like you said, hightailing it out of the ring, literally shoving Wardlow into the stinger for a gut shot from a baseball bat. Wardlow's got to be getting sick and tired of being on the opposite end of all this.
How can you, you're poking the bear so much, and then it's
God, I can't wait for Wardlow to just wipe the mat with this dude, just beat the shit out of him. But the stinger, I love the Sting coming out, not letting MJF get that cheap win over Darby. Me as the conductor of the Darby Express, I was squirming in my seat, wondering if choo-choo. I was squirming in my seat, wondering if the Darby Express was going to get derailed, based off of just MJF being a dirtbag. So good to see Stinger come out, kind of interrupt MJF's BS. And again, as always, MJF able to get nuclear heat, just running running down the crowd of Miami. Just awesome stuff. And the easiest guy in wrestling to hate, MJF, can't say anything more than that in this one. I'll wrap it up in case MJF's listening along. I don't want him to say I'm talking too much. I'm tired of you, MJF. I can't wait for Darby Allin to send you packing. I love it.
Call him out. That's for
right.
Sure. Speaking of calling someone out, Arn Anderson has been consistently calling out Cody Rhodes week in and week out.
Great
and his
segment.
promos and his vignettes have been absolutely home runs. And this was another one. Arn Anderson, he picked up Cody and he brought your camera crew. And then Cody gets confronted by the Nightmare Academy, the Nightmare Factory, and they're slapping him. They're taking jabs at him. But I like how Arn is having him get in the ring, get him back to basics. And,
great segment.
I like that he was getting to that, Cody's spitting blood and he's almost getting fed up with it. What's up with this? What's up with this? Why am I doing this? And so the storytelling with these promos to trying to get Cody out of this funk or Cody on, his winning ways, as we're going to see very soon with Cody and Malachi Black 3, which if Cody doesn't win this, I think the build of this it definitely has Cody going over, beating Malachi Black. I think he's earning it with these feuds, and he's got to earn it with Arn Anderson's trust. And I think ultimately Arn will call the final shot play, and then all will be restored with Captain Cody.
It could go one of two ways. I mean, I think that Cody could lose this match, and if he does, I could see him. I mean, obviously, Cody has said he's never turning heel, but right. I could see Cody kind of snapping and throwing sort of like kind of going over the edge, losing to Malachi, and then kind of flipping out after the match and throwing almost a tantrum and beating him down afterwards with a chair, something like that.
Right.
But if you do go the more obvious route, you have this training where Arn is kind of teaching Cody, tap into what your dad did. I mean, don't be afraid to, iron sharpens iron, as we always talk about. Don't be afraid to bring your dark, your baddest self. Just because you want to be a role model doesn't mean that you need to be a weak man. Sure. And I think that that's what he's trying to teach Cody here is, these young fans that are looking up to you, they need to see a strong Cody Rhodes. They need to see a man who stands on his own 2 feet, and when he gets kicked in the face, punches the guy right back in the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
We want to see Cody not back down. We need a strong Cody Rhodes. And if that means he brings out more heelish tendencies, hey, man, I'm all for it. I'm fine with that, baby.
Look at the shirt you're wearing.
I'm good with that. So, but I think that this is going to bring out the dark side of Cody, and maybe that is a literal thing. Maybe we see dark hair Cody come back.
Right.
You don't know. But it's certainly for a feud that has been this one-sided. Arn Anderson's involvement has made this feel like must-watch stuff.
Yeah,
from the Glock promo to this segment, absolutely fantastic. I was waiting for QT Marshall to make an appearance in this segment. I was waiting for the factory to get involved because, I mean, honestly, it was Cody going back to his roots, man. Just beaten down in a training session. Really good stuff.
Yeah, it was, and it's pure gold, and the build up to this is going to be nice. And I hope we get a road to for this match and this next Dynamite, and so we can lead up to this match plus follow the roads to the top season finale already on it. But the women's match of the night, Kiera Hogan versus Penelope Ford, was in that spot that we don't like to talk about, where they get that commercial break early on. But Penelope Ford is one of those talents that we've talked about pretty regularly over the past few months, especially with her pairing with the Bunny, how well she is in the ring and how underrated and underappreciated. I mean, she's been in a lot of matches, and I think she shines really well when she's the quarterback in the match. And she had to be in this match. It was not my favorite match of hers. I think it could have been executed a little better. I do like Penelope's new look and seeing her featured more. And I think the bigger story of this match was just furthering the feud with Ruby Soho. And as we saw at the end, unfortunately, this match was a little bit more disappointing than I wanted it to be. I think it didn't get the help it needed positioned on the card, and it didn't help as the picture in picture. But Penelope Ford, I think, the momentum is still with that tag team. And we've talked about before, like Penelope and Bunny could, if there isn't ever a tag team titles for the women's division, could definitely spearhead those titles if those do come in, as they consistently get more wins under the belt as a team and establish them as more of a true tag team, which we don't have any true
That's
tag
what I
teams
was
in the
thinking
women's
about
division yet.
when I was watching this match. That's all I thought about was, SPD. You've been saying it for a long time, way before it was popular. It feels like if AEW builds up characters like Penelope Ford and the Bunny, they can start to fully flesh out a division, and they've really run with that. And I although to me, I've seen Kiera Hogan's work in Impact, and
Right.
I like what she does in the ring. I think that she's pretty talented. Hasn't had a lot of great opportunities of late, getting absolutely squashed by Jade and then losing in this match and kind of a picture-in-picture mess of a match. The crowd wasn't super hot for some reason. It seemed to serve a purpose of just kind of playing into the greater feud of Ruby with Penelope and Bunny. And man, that's been a lot of trash talk, especially between Bunny and Ruby on Twitter. My goodness, those two are going at each other. But it feels like this is a litmus test for the women's division and how far they want to go with it, because you're building up some people who this time last year, man, Penelope Ford and the Bunny. If you would have told me that they were believable, upper mid card top talents in AEW's women's division, I would have been wishy-washy about that, right? I mean, they haven't always been presented as the strongest characters in this division, and they certainly have had some moments where they've come out on top and they've looked quite strong of late, especially. So I like where they're going with that, and I think that this Ruby feud, having her just be that fired up baby face, almost like a Thunder Rosa vibe, where it's just coming in hot, coming after those nasty heels. It works. Interested to see how this plays out, if the 2-on-1, how this whole dynamic goes, if Ruby's going to have some backup. I'm intrigued.
That's for sure. I mean, the history, it makes sense for Ruby to have. Well, once they announce that tournament, I'm curious of how they make those pairings of the TBS Women's Title Tournament on that as well. And now that we're talking about the women's division, we saw that promo with the DMD and Anna Jay backstage, and we're seeing some trash talk online. Bonds and I had talked about it yesterday. If you do go into a battle with the Inner Circle and American Top Team, there's obviously Paige Van Zant, who's a tough person, but there was no one on the roster that I could think of that would go toe-to-toe with Paige Van Zant, and other than Thunder Rosa. And even Thunder called her out, said, sign me up on Twitter after our show. I was checking that, and I was like, yep, sure enough, she is the only one that has that fire, that drive, that edge, that chip on her shoulder that can really throw real haymakers, throw real kicks, get those holds in, make someone tap out. And so Thunder taking on Paige would be pretty must-see TV. So if we got that at the pay-per-view or down the line anywhere, I think we are absolutely in for a treat for sure.
Oh, brother, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, how often have you and I talked about this? Thunder Rosa gets that crowd reaction like nobody's business, and Paige Van Zant with Thunder is one of those people in the ring that you could tell could take her offense. Can't be an episode of Dynamite Download if we don't get a little Thunder Rosa love, and Britt Baker. Obviously, we got to talk a little bit about Britt. Her talking trash against Anna Jay, stirring the pot, getting Anna Jay really fired up. It's good to see even this match being billed as a grudge match on on next week's show.
Sure.
Being billed as a grudge match. It's obvious Britt's willing to make digs at people. And clearly she's feeling herself right now with her being the champ and her boyfriend Adam Cole being on the top of the world.
All about them.
It doesn't get better than that. So interested to see how. I'm telling you, man, AEW's got a lot of things going on right now, dude. A lot going on in the stories.
And they just elevated themselves even more with the re-emerging Hangman Adam Page for sure. And man, was his promo on fire last night. And he was hitting it real. I mean, he started off talk about long-term storytelling. This guy's been involved in some of the longest term storytelling to date, whether, going on stories on BTE and where it all started, how he started with this promo, how they believed in their vision when they started back in 2019. And I loved how he brought together what cowboy shit means to him and what it's going to mean to him at Full Gear, how he's going to give it all, and everyone chanting cowboy shit. And this was a fired up Hangman. And I think it was a great response to his casino battle royal winning that chip. I think it was a fantastic rebuttal, and I think it's setting the stage. Obviously, the crowd is all for this, and we were calling for it. We were hoping to see it at All Out, but it made more sense for here this Full Gear with this build, this slower build. But Hangman Adam Page right here, this is your next AEW World Champion. Period. I mean, this is the biggest moment of his career. This is the biggest pops that he's getting in his career. He is riding on the biggest wave of his career, and you gotta put that medal on his chest when you strike while the iron's hot. You have to, and it will be great passing the torch from one AEW homegrown star to another, and this guy is just starting to really hit his stride, and the crowd is going to go berserk for this one.
Love how you put this too, and I think that AEW, this is another example of great, smart booking by AEW. I don't think that Adam Page or AEW was quite ready for him to be that first world champion. I think that having Jericho win that and kind of carry the torch at the beginning, the early stages of the company made a lot of sense. But this is a great example of them coming full circle. Company's been around now, and they've got a very strong following, a passionate fan base, and their product is continuing to blow up and get bigger and better. And for them to kind of come full circle and now give Page this opportunity, I think this is going to be a great moment for a homegrown kind of that one of the original guys of this company. You see all the other names that have joined along for the ride, that have come along, whether they're young guys that have kind of been coming up through the ranks, or the big name free agents like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and Andrade, Malachi. We could go on and on, but for them to now, with that landscape being so amazing in scope, for them to hone in on that guy, that homegrown, beloved babyface in Hangman to be the next champ, I think it's going to be a beautiful thing, man. I really am excited to see this one play out, and it couldn't be better with the way that Kenny's been. I mean, he's just been absolutely detestable. The stuff that he and the Elite are doing to the Jungle Boy and Jurassic Express. I don't know, man. I feel like you had to be crying in your cereal watching Luchasaurus get kicked in the nuts and get power bombed by Kenny and the Bucks. I mean, brutal stuff, man. And so can't wait for him to get his comeuppance with Hangman. That's going to be great to see.
I totally agree, man. And we ended the Dynamite, last night's Dynamite, Saturday Night Dynamite, with Bryan Danielson and Bobby Fish wrestling back-to-back nights in two great and different matches. And this style, once again, we're seeing a totally different style out of Bryan Danielson on this. And at first, I loved how CM Punk on commentary all night. I mean, he just provides that other inside scoop, as they were calling him the Tony Romo of the commentary, predicting it ahead. And CM Punk had no idea what they were talking about because he doesn't watch football, so that was kind of great. Yeah. But CM Punk said Fish is highly underrated, and what I'm seeing out of him, I was not a NXT fan, so I don't know much about him before this, but I can tell with his experience and some clips that I've seen. I mean, he is fantastic in the ring. And I totally believe what he's saying, how underrated he is. I like his methodical, slow, painful offense, the grappling, the pain, the work in the body parts. If you caught it in the picture-in-picture, he was working the crowd big time, really trying to lean into that heel antics, kicking the barricade, yelling at fans in the crowd, kind of old school heel stuff that if you're watching that picture-in-picture. But this was the match we saw with Bryan Danielson versus Suzuki and the match we saw here with Bobby Fish, totally different matches.
Yeah.
Working the body. You're talking about physicals and strikes, kicks, chops, and just really hard hitting, and this is just more methodical, more grappling,
Technician
and
showcase.
the knee holds, all the different insane submissions. Like, how are they getting in there? Like those back-to-back knee holds, and they kept changing those up. I really like this, man. I think the pairing for this was a great way to end the show and a fantastic main event, and it just was a showcase of what Bobby Fish can do. I mean, he went his debut against Sammy, and then against Lee, and then now Bryan Danielson, 3 quick matches within a week. It's trying to establish him as a true, like, in-ring general, and loved it.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way. I mean, I have been an NXT fan. I have an Undisputed Era shirt somewhere in my closet amongst my 50 wrestling shirts. I've been an Undisputed Era guy. And so, having Adam Cole in the AEW Welcome Edition, but Bobby Fish too, man. That said, even for me as an Undisputed Era fan, Bobby Fish was the 4th guy in that group to me. I loved Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. And so this was a match where I was like, all right, Bobby has always kind of been the guy in the background. He and Kyle O'Reilly had some great tag team runs, but Bobby's always been the guy who was the quiet one, a little bit more in the back seat, kind of like the Dean Malenko vibes, if you know what I mean. Just not a big talker, but getting an opportunity to go toe-to-toe with one of the best wrestlers on the planet and being able to really showcase, like you said, those veteran, just that savvy, knowing how to work a crowd, work over body part, just the smart pacing, really made this one stand out in a good way. And it made me want to see more Bobby Fish, which is a good thing. So I'm all for it.
Yes, it was a huge elite win to close out Dynamite. Then we got that bracket that we saw earlier and when we talked about. But as we're wrapping things up for our show, we typically don't go a whole week without having some kind of content. So we're going to bring you guys a little special interview coming up this week. We haven't set the debut day yet, but we're going to share it because our inner marks, some of you guys may know, but coming up, we're going to be having our next interview this week, but it will debut maybe on Wednesday or maybe on Thursday. We will have someone we've been wanting to get on the show for a while, Preston Vance, aka 10, interviewing Dynamite Download, which we were going to set for that on Tuesday. So if you
on a roll, fam,
we got a pretty good structure of our interview going on, but send us a DM if you guys have any specific topics that we might be able to bring up in our time with him. But we are really excited to talk to Preston Vance, our 3rd member of the Dark Order, since we are huge Dark Order fans. We can't wait to chat to him about Road to the Top, his relationship with -1, being in the world title Eliminator tournament against Jon Moxley, and so much more. This guy is all around cool guy. We got to chat with him in All Out at the hotel for a bit and touch base. And Crayfish actually used to work right where he grew up in Michigan. So so that will be in store for that. So stay tuned for that. But we hope you guys had a great weekend. 2 awesome shows on Dynamite and Rampage this weekend. And stay tuned for our interview debut. And thank you, as always. We love chatting with you, and have a good rest of your weekend, everyone.